Hi, everyone, and I'm Sandra Ingerman, and welcome to the Shamans Cave.
And I'm Renee Baribeau, and we are excited to be here today to talk about something we find very important and very much about how we are both trying to move and shake with our life is shaking out what's excess and moving towards a more simple life.
Yeah, we know that with the COVID, that um, people started to reflect on their lives because all of a sudden they didn't have a lot of the external that distracted them in their lives as usual. And people started to notice, of course, there's those people who always love to be distracted and aren't going to connect to this conversation at all. But the TV programs that are getting huge audiences, what people are talking about is talking about getting rid of stuff. And the TV shows that are getting the huge audiences are those towns where there are 100 people living and they all take care of each other. You know that that isn't reality, but it's a dream we all have of being in a community and being supported and not having so much stress and being able to sit on a picnic bench instead of working through lunch. I can't, I don't know the last time I didn't work through lunch.
I think that I'm living in a community that sounds like some of those idyllic places online. Whereas this week, I went to I went to an auto mechanic, and he actually called me back up and said, we think you could do this for about half as much money up the road. And so then I called the guy up the road. He said, well, why don't you come out on Friday at 1 o'clock? And he says, usually people just enjoy my farm while they wait. And I'm there like, me, I'm pack my computer, I pack my lunch. I'm like, I never took my computer out because his farm had a cow and no, two cows and a horse and some geese. And like when I went in the driveway at first, like the geese wasn't going to let me go up the driveway. And he says, yeah, if you can get past the geese, I'll work on your car. And I just sat there and 2 hours went by with no time, just being in this thing. And somebody came to him and said, oh, do you work on Saturdays? He goes, no, no, I don't work on the weekends. I mean, he has a whole farm and I'm sure he does plenty on the weekends, but his trade is Monday through Friday. My builders are the same way. They show up Monday through Friday. And I know Sandra and I, we both work Monday through Monday. And then some.
There's much more than 24 hours in a day, I have discovered. Yeah, it's really interesting because, it's everything that is actually creating more problems on the planet is the distraction and how we're not listening to ourselves, so we're not listening to our bodies, so we're having health problems because of that, and we're getting really stressed out, which is part of what's affecting our emotional, physical, and mental health. So it's all about how do we start looking at what is it time to let go of? What is it time to just move forward from and say, this was part of my past. This was the life that sculpted me. This is how I was shaped. But this is now a different cycle. In our shows, Renee and I have been doing, if you've been watching our past shows, we've been doing a lot of shows on changing cycles and how those cycles change. And with this change, people are, I can't tell you how many emails I'm getting. People are buying campers and selling their house and they're just taking to the road. They don't want the responsibility of a house. They just want some freedom. They want to see beauty, and they want to take a breath from so much work. I have a fantasy of doing that myself, and I know a lot of people do. We're tired of all the stress. We're tired of not having a life.
Hmm. I think I don't know if I thought that I could move to an island and like life would just continue as it would, but the earth is tending to me. Like I have this new chair, used chair that I picked up out in the garden, and I will just take my lunch and go sit out there. And what you were talking about, sitting at the picnic table and eating, and I'll just sit out there and just stare off at the harbor and stare off into space. And I'm one who like get up at 6 and work. And then I have to have this conversation with myself, because I'm feeling like worthless or that I'm not getting enough done or, that the quality of what I'm doing isn't enough because I was so wrapped into that cycle of doing that I can't even see that I bring enough at half pace. Everything's getting done, but it's just like, okay.
I remember when I told a friend that I was working on getting more energy, and she said, "Oh my God." She said, "This is terrible. Do not get more energy." But I'm actually the opposite of Renee, and it's actually one of the reasons that I'm so stressed out is I've had this long thing. I don't want to burden you with my personal history, but I have skin issues, and it's from childhood. It was very difficult for me to put on clothes because my parents couldn't afford fabric that my skin could handle. So, from a child, I developed a habit of laying in bed for 2 hours and just staring. 2 hours. I always set my alarm clock for 2 hours before I have to get up to psychologically prepare myself for having to put on clothes. And that stayed with me. I got to a place where I was able to get fabrics that my skin could handle, but I never let go of that 2 hour. So I always, if I'm at a workshop and I have to be at breakfast at 9 o'clock, my alarm clock is off by 4 or 5. And so I have just space. It's just space. I don't turn on music. I don't listen to anything. I literally just space. And it's become such a beautiful time for me. I've been doing this for my whole entire life. And so I get so confused. I get that people are loving absorbing all the information that's coming from Zoom and all the interviews and talks and everything. But the spiritual development that's happened for me in my own life from just being able to stare is priceless. There's I have processed so much. I have healed so much from giving myself those 2 hours, but it does push my day a little bit more.
I wonder if that's a spiritual something that we share in our spiritual, because I've always needed those extra 2 hours. This morning I was preparing for an interview for the Dreamkeeper Summit, which I'm co-hosting. That's coming up this month, and and that was before our talk. So I had to get up extra early. So and now I'm doing that mantra every day for 40 days. So I had to get up, and that's taking time in the morning too. So it's like that 2 hours kind of grows into 3 hours. And that's how I organize my spaciousness around my day. And I would suggest for and I suggested to the people taking my programs, if you're not having enough time to write that book, then like what, someone told me once, get up an hour earlier. Like, so if I already need 2 hours and I want to start to write the book, I get up that third hour earlier because the 2 hour doesn't change that rhythm, that personal rhythm. Some people need it at night, I bet you, Sandra. And some people,
Yeah.
you and I probably are so tired by the time we get through that 2 hours in the 12-hour day that we're like at night, it's just like I turn off by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I turn off about. I actually don't turn off. That's the problem. Nobody on the planet has been able to figure out how to turn that button off. We can't find the power button.
That's
So
funny.
my days are pretty much 24 hours, unless it's unbelievable what goes into this body to get a few hours of sleep.
That's funny. My friends, if I have people over for dinner, they'll see me like turning off. They'll say, all right, well, it's time for us to go.
Yeah.
It's like I just go blank.
I used to shame my husband. He used to be so mad at me because it would be 11:30 and he'd be, I want to go to bed, and I go, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why don't you ever have any energy? And I was terrible. We've been together 25 years. I was a lot younger then, and we have the most loving, I think people who know us know that Woods and I are unbelievable soulmates and have the most loving relationship, which is the only thing keeping me here. But I would shame him of what's wrong with you.
I got another 2 hours left in me.
Yeah, I know.
That is an interesting thing, especially that's a really good point to bring up. Is like, so you want to live a simple life and you have somebody who wants to live a more complicated life, and trying to find that balance with somebody else can also be a challenge. And one of the things that I find works for me in my longer lasting relationships is that I have to be true to myself. My friends, when they know that it's an eat and leave at my house, because that's who I am. And for me to stay up and yawn just to make them happy for another half an hour, it doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a friend in Italy who does the same thing. They do dinners for people, and I think they're earlier than you. I think at 7. Everybody knows. Nothing has to be said. Everybody knows you get up at 7 and you leave. And these are things that are important. When we start talking about, I know people got very confused when the COVID first arrived. I have a dear friend who I haven't seen in a while who's an elder. And he kept calling me and he kept saying to me, Sandra, please talk to people about the simple life. Sandra, please talk to people about the simple life. He called me every day and he said, this is what we need. And so I started talking about the simple life, and my closest students and friends were saying, I don't really know what you mean by the simple life. Is this what you mean? Or when you said this in your Shift Network class, is that what you meant by the simple life? And so we've gotten so complex with technology and how we live and the numbers of people in our community that we're not even sometimes aware of how much distracting noise, how much distracting images. Everything is distracting, and everything shuts our psychic senses down and our intuition down and our immune system down. So when those emails, maybe you say, aren't that important today, and sitting on the bench and looking at the cows was more important, which one promotes health? And I'm not talking just physical health. Which one promotes your mental health? And that's something that you have to reflect on. I would love to be sitting on a picnic table and looking at nature and talking to somebody while they're working on a car. I would love to make that part of my day, and I can. We have to learn. We have to learn how to organize our days better so that we have time. And then instead of just destroying our lives and saying, I want a simple life and get rid of everything, and then you have nothing, step by step, what still brings me joy, what's still bringing me energy, and you can layer out things from your life that allow you to get more spaciousness.
Absolutely. I don't know, Sandra, I'm building a house.
Right.
And so right now I'm living in a 3-bedroom mobile with 2 bathrooms and everything. And one of the things that I'm realizing is there's two extra rooms that I don't need here. It's like they just get dusty and you have to clean them. So really simplifying might mean, needing less space. And, because I'm thinking like, all right, well, this is only have 800 square feet. Well, really, that's probably what I live in. And to be okay that, that's my sign of I've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like some 5,000 square foot house that I don't want to clean, but that I have a place where that I can keep attended to and then take a wind walk, which I was going to tell you about taking wind walks today. Are we ready for the wind walk?
Yeah. So basically, when Renee and I talked about this podcast and our time together today, we talked about, wow, how do we help people step into the simple life if they choose to? I have friends who want their lives as busy and complicated as possible. But for many of us, it's wearing us down. It's wearing us down, not just physically, it's wearing us down mentally. And so Renee and I talked about it, and what a perfect thing to do, but take a wind walk to reflect on what can you let go of in your day? How can you instead of let go of, how can you reorganize so that you have some space? And so Renee's going to tell us how to do a wind walk and what to focus on.
All right. So a wind walk is a mindfulness activity, and it's a good opportunity for you to go out and connect with the wind spirits of air to have answer and have a direct revelation to get a question answered. My suggestion would be ask, how can I simplify my life? Or what one small step may I take today to simplify my life? So hold that question or some version of it. Don't ask why. Why questions will get you, might get the tornadoes blowing in your life because they're hard to answer. But how, who, what, where, when, what one small step can I take today to simplify my life is a great question. Then you're going to have to take a walk. Some of you might be stranded in bed today, so you can always open your window and imagine yourself taking a walk in, your third eye. But for the rest of us who just really have to get up off the couch, go to the front door, step outside, close your eyes, and form your question so that it's a question that the winds can directly answer to you. Close your eyes and state out loud or state to yourself, what one small thing can I do today to simplify my life? Then you wait a minute. You wait either that the wind will kiss you on your cheek. The newest one I have is listening to the wind song. The wind has a song. And once you hear that song or you get a little kiss on your cheek, you put the question aside and you take a walk and just observe nature. No big thing. You just take a walk, whether it's around the corner, 2 miles. The other day, I was blessed to go take a walk along Eby's Bluff where I first started to hear the wind. And you notice You notice nature. You don't focus on your question, you notice nature. And by golly, I bet you by the time you get to the end of the day or the end of your walk, you will have an answer to that one simple question of what can I do, one thing to simplify my life today?
Yeah, and the step by step is so important because in my work and in my life, I've watched how myself and how others get so overwhelmed because you make this gigantic plan. And then you don't have the mental energy or the physical energy to do it. So follow what Renee is saying and really keep it simple. The simplest you can be, then it starts to grow organically. It's like you open up a new door in your life and a new room with fresh air opens up, but the door opens up slowly. Everything, when you live a simple life, everything moves slowly.
And organically, our Shaman's Cave has been growing organically. We're on season 3. And, we do a little advertising here or there, but it's people like you and your friends who keep sharing it with other people who are helping us get into the homes and hearts of thousands of people every single week with these simple, practical tools of how you can align more effortlessly with nature. And so make sure you come over to the Shaman's Cave on Facebook or go to shamanstv.com and sign up for our mailing list. And we'll send you, every time we drop a new show, you'll get a notice in your inbox. And you can stay tuned to these simple ideas shared by 2 wisdom keepers that can help you learn to navigate your life based on the harmony and the rhythms of nature.
Yeah, and I wrote a little book called The Shaman's Toolkit, and the original title was How to Thrive in Changing Times, because the book has nothing on shamanism in it. I wrote a book on shamanism for a general audience so I could bring them into working with nature and bring them into working with guides without ever using the word shamanism. Of course, my publisher ended up changing the title to The Shaman's Toolkit. But the reason I'm sharing this book is it's very small. And if you have friends that, well, I like the information that Renee and Sandra are sharing, but I'm so new to shaman. I don't even know where to even start. This is a book for people. I wrote it out of the heart attack study that I led. How did I explain all the exercises to born again Christians? That's what's in that book. So if you have friends that you would like to inspire, check it out. It's very little.
I love little books.
Yeah.
Thank you and see you next week.
Blessings.